I couldn't just say, hey, Shaylyn, get whatever you want and I'll just move in. That would drive me nuts. It would bum me out. Yeah. I put up like a wet floor sign in the house. Watch your step. This is somebody's feelings get hurt. Somebody gets provoked, and it's like fists are flying, right?
Yeah. How's it going, Greg?
It's going good.
How you been? Tell me about life.
Life's going good. I got my hands full, adequately challenged.
There you go.
You don't want to be under challenged. If you're under challenged, you're bored.
Sure.
I've proven if I'm under challenged, I create chaos.
We always make sure you have enough challenge on your plate to keep you occupied.
If you're over challenged, you're overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm in that sweet spot.
You are perfectly whelmed. You're not under or overwhelmed. You're just whelmed.
Appropriately whelmed.
That's great. Glad to hear it.
At times a bit overwhelmed. Rarely bored. Almost never.
Yeah, you just get your head back above water and keep on paddling.
But I have a good people around me, particularly you.
Oh, well, aren't you sweet?
Yeah, pretty much. So we have not talked since our Miami trip, have we?
No. I mean, we've spoken to each other off camera.
Correct.
Yes. Just to clarify, we haven't avoided one another for the
dialogue.
past week.
So we went to Miami. So kind of our marriage relational events happen. March is your birthday, is on the 19th. The 20th is our anniversary. So
we just kept it all close together.
That's right. Easy to remember, but
make a weekend out of it.
But I have not said, hey, we're going to do one thing and kill two birds with one stone.
No.
We're going to celebrate your birthday. We're going all in. And then we're going to celebrate our anniversary and we're going to go all out. And that's what we did. Went to Miami, which we chose Miami because it is the
furthest south you can go on a straight flight.
From Columbus, Ohio. Yeah.
That's literally the whole reason.
No layovers.
Just get there, get going.
Get there, get that Uber, and get that sunshine.
That's right.
And it was awesome. We found a little place we'd like to stay, and then it was like sun, a little bit of shopping, and some really good food.
Yes. What else do you need?
Exactly. At this point in life, in your 40s.
There really isn't anything else you need to do.
It's about as good as it gets.
Yes, I agree. And we got out just in time because literally we left early in the morning on Friday. The night before we left, we sat and watched like 30 planes come in.
Spring breakers.
In like an hour.
Spring breakers.
Of spring breakers.
Yeah, we missed that rush.
We're good with that.
Glory be to God. It was perfect though. Just weather was amazing. High 70s, low 80s.
Yeah.
So it was good. Glad to be home.
We highly recommend that to anyone. Yeah. Find the furthest south straight flight you can go if you live in a cold weather area.
It was 4 days, basically. We did like 4 days, which in the day, we would always go for like a week or 10 days. And I would have thought 3 or 4 days wouldn't do much. I find 3 or 4 days to be wonderful. Mm-hmm. When we go away for 3 or 4 days, I come back refreshed and, but it was really good.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agreed. So that was great. What's got you excited these days?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was super fun. Another cool thing that we did for my birthday that actually ended up being something now I want to do with our daughter was some friends of mine threw a birthday party that was like a Sherlock Holmes themed birthday party.
Murder mystery
birthday party. It was a blast. We had a great time. And so I actually ended up ordering a couple of new case files for Ella and I to do. I mean, you're welcome as well to join us.
I tried to add value when on the murder mystery, and I tried to get in there, but I realized I was dealing with some really smart people.
Oh, come on.
That think quickly. So I was trying to just be careful not to get in the way.
You just didn't want to become a suspect. You were worried you'd get too close to the case and get implicated. Yeah. It's all right. But no, that was really fun. I think that's just one of those like fun little kind of activate your brain type activities.
It was more fun than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So
it's like, hey, we're gonna do a murder mystery. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then we start doing it, and it was really fun. I mean, they send you the case files, and there's no directions. You just open up.
You have to
start
figure
trying
it out.
To piece this together.
Yeah, you got to hack into a detective's emails, all kinds of stuff. It was a lot of fun. Highly recommend 10 out of 10 if you're looking for a little like evening group activity type thing to do.
And you successfully solved the case.
We did.
You and your team.
The team.
Yeah, the team.
Yeah.
But congratulations, kudos to you. we got a bad person off the street.
That's right. It's my biggest accomplishment in life right now.
You'd have been great at that, honestly. Forensic, science, getting bad. Because, I mean, you have a high sense of justice, and you're really good with science.
Think like a criminal. You know what I mean? Just kidding. But no, I do think I would have really enjoyed that line of work, for sure. That would have been something I would enjoy.
Yeah.
Could get into.
Want to shout out my sweatshirt.
Hey.
My friend Jordan Collins has a brand called Cozy.
And it truly is the coziest clothes you will have. Specifically, may I say, their socks. I am so picky about socks.
Yeah.
They are the best socks I've ever put on my feet. Hands down.
Yep.
Hands down.
So,
like, they were incredible.
he gives me a sweatshirt and some socks. And he's like, these are the best socks you'll ever have. He made a big claim, right? And so I'm like, all right. And I mean, everybody's, nobody's objective about their own stuff in a sense, right? You're like, these are the best socks ever. And I'm like, I like that.
According to you.
Like that you think that. So then I get home and I'm like, hey, Shaylyn, Jordan Collins said these are the best socks ever. And I gave them to you and you put them on. I was
ready to shoot it down.
You put them on and
couldn't stop talking about it.
Raved about it. I felt like I was on like a commercial for Cozy Socks.
For like the next hour, I was like, no, Greg, no, you don't understand.
To be clear,
these socks are amazing.
Cozy socks they're not like cabin socks. We're not talking like wool socks. We're talking like
more like athletic,
like an athletic fit. Like they're.
But the way they hug your foot and support your arch, and they're so comfortable, and there's no.
And you have arch issues. You've had arch issues all your life.
I have very high arches. I'm super picky. And this was
just hugging the arch. So I had to let him know. I was like, Jordan, you were right about your socks.
Yeah, he absolutely was. He did not overstate it at all. They are that great.
And by the way, I don't know if you know this. So this sweatshirt, crew neck, but it's got pockets.
Right? That's what, like, everything they make is so great. I had on my navy blue cozy set yesterday. I should have worn it today instead. But it seriously is great stuff. And I love, we're not trying to do a commercial here, but we kind of are, I guess.
Hey, you got to give credit where credit's due, right?
If you love something, you should just like tell people that you love it. So the other thing I love about Cozy is like the whole point behind the brand, right, is to bring awareness to mental health issues and supporting people and providing resources.
We need to be clear. Jordan is not paying us to say this.
That's what I'm saying.
We need to be clear. This is not a sponsored.
It's just really great stuff from a really great company. Yeah. So,
all right.
Shout out.
All right. So, what are we going to talk about, Brandon?
Yeah, I've been cooking up some questions.
All right. You've been cooking.
I refuse to show you before the recording.
Yeah, we don't. Right. So we don't.
So we're going back to the good old days.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking. I think that I'm going to hold off the timer and just let you guys talk.
Okay.
We got 2 questions, so we won't.
I got an idea. How about this? You ask the question, you time us, but don't show the timer. And then when we get done talking, we'll guess how long we talked about it.
All right.
Sure.
That sounds like fun. Because sometimes you lose track of time. You're like, we only talked about 7 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, that was 25 minutes.
Okay, sounds good. They're both, it's 2 marriage-related questions.
Okay.
In honor of the anniversary. It was
21.
21.
You ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so here's first question. Can you share a time when you disagreed on something important and how you handled the conflict?
We actually just talked about this the other day with the house.
Yeah. Good story.
I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's one of the biggest investments you ever make
really
as a couple is buying a house.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like super sold on this house and I was super not.
Take us through it.
All right. So you want to start with your end of things?
I will do whatever you want.
Yeah. So go ahead and just like walk through what you were thinking and why you wanted it and that kind of stuff. And then
all right. So set up the scene. We've owned a few houses. So we bought a house as soon as we got married, flipped it. Yeah. We flipped a few houses. So we've been able to
bought and flipped every time.
We bought and flipped. So
buy it, fix it up, sell it.
Yep. So we were in a spot where we were the interest rates were super low. We had sold our other house, and we had a really nice windfall from that. So we wanted to kind of go get our house we're going to raise our kids in.
Right.
All the other
we're
houses.
not moving out of this house. We're staying here. Yeah.
That's right. All our other houses were kind of temporary. We're like, let's go get the house we're going to be in for a long time. So I was the one. I'm not trying to make claims or be weird or whatever, but I was really the driving force on this whole thing. So like we had a realtor, but I was really doing all the looking. The realtor brought some houses, but it was really me. Like I was getting on there every day. I was looking, and we went into a bunch of houses. And for our family to do that, it's kind of an undertaking. You know, it's like, again, this was a few years back. The boys were early on in autism, so kind of getting them in and out of the house.
And it was also during COVID, so like house showings were even more complicated.
Yeah, it was all that.
It was a lot.
Yeah, so we'd gone into a bunch of houses, and I think we had made an offer on we didn't get, but it had been a lot. I've lost track. I didn't keep track of how many, but we'll say dozens of homes.
Yeah, it was.
We load our family up, walk through. So we find this one that kind of checked all the boxes. And we went into it. Ella's eyes got really big because she'd had a cool room in that house. And I thought, this is great. Like, it had some features that I liked. And you were not excited about it. And I remember the day because Hudson was not being good. And so you were like kind of parenting him. And I felt like your energy was off going through the house because of him. And so because of that, I felt like your energy was down, and then you weren't giving this house a fair shake. So I kept saying like, hey, what do you think? And you're like, it's all right. Like, I just thought you were in a bad mood. And so I kept trying to like, I kept trying to sell you on this house. Like, hey, what about this? Look at this. And everything was just sort of a subdued reaction. It was just like, yeah, okay. And so then we get out of there, and Ella was very high on it. I was high on it. And so that night, we're sitting down to talk about, hey, let's talk about, do we want to make an offer on this house? Mm-hmm. And you just weren't into it, and so we get in this argument, and I'm going down the line of all the things that, why we should get it. And you talk about all the things you didn't like. You're sort of, downplaying it. And I can keep going unless you want to cut in. Do you want me to keep going?
Yeah, I think it was really, from my perspective, it was really a tough position to be in, because I did feel terrible that it's like, okay, Greg loves this house. Ella loves this house. Like, it would have been much easier to just kind of keep my mouth shut and be like, whatever. It's not like I hate it. I just don't love it.
It just didn't feel like the house, right?
Yeah.
If it was going to dinner or going on vacation, whatever, this is temporary, but this is where we're going to put our roots down.
Right. And there were some things that were a genuine concern for me with the boys in that house that I felt they just worried me on a safety front, like as far as the property and that kind of stuff for where our boys were. And maybe those things were overblown in my mind. I don't know. But I mean, the reality is that was really where I was, right? So it was hard to have to come to that conversation and be like, I really don't feel like this is the house. And especially because, you guys wanted it so badly. And I think one of the, number one, it was a very civil conversation, which was great. Like, we were both very frustrated, but it didn't like escalate to a yelling match or something. It was just like, this conversation sucks. But then I am so thankful that you were open in that conversation, because I remember I said to you, do you think it's possible that part of why you really want this house is because you're just really tired of looking? And this like technically checks these boxes. And it would have been really easy for you to just be like, no, whatever. But you sat with the question and you were open to it. And I think that led us, and I was open to hearing your reasons why it wasn't the house, or that it should be the house. But it still just wasn't sitting right in my gut and in my heart. And so I hated that I had to kind of keep being like, I really don't, though. Like, I really don't think this is it. I kind of just have a check about it. So you want to pick back up where you were?
Yeah, I think just to kind of sit with that for a second, I think it's one of those things, like, it's easy to get frustrated or emotional. Again, in that moment, I started I probably even said some things. I don't remember exactly all I said, but something along the lines of like, "Hey, I'm kind of doing all the work over here. Like I'm the one out here, doing
Like
all
if
this
you can find
legwork.
something
And
better, find something better.
I'm tired of just bringing you stuff and getting it shot down.
Yeah.
And so to be clear-headed a little bit, to go, look, I don't want to get emotional about this. This is a big decision. We want to bust through the doors of this house, all of us like excited about it.
Yeah.
It's a big moment, and to have enough, like, you know what, the right thing at the right time will come, like to just have some patience. And when you ask that question, I do remember like my first internal response was defensive.
Right, to lawyer up a little bit.
Yeah, to get defensive, because it's like, are you sure you love this house, or are you just tired of looking? That in a sense, I mean, it was the perfect question, because it was the right question to ask. But through my hearing, right, at first I'm going, well, I've just made the case of why I love the house.
Right.
So in a sense, I would have to walk back everything I just said of like, yeah, actually, I got big eyes, and I don't love it as much as I just said I do. And number two, to go, I lacked on my own the presence of mind to separate a huge decision from just being.
But we all do that
correct.
at times.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Sitting here years later.
Sure.
And
yeah.
if I was talking to somebody else, I'd be like, guys, that's normal. I mean, it's human beings. That's why you have two people to kind of work through it together.
Yeah.
But in the moment, you just feel like you're being
said than
accused of being a bad decision maker, that you're not self-aware and internally disciplined around your thought processes, essentially. And so it does take some humility to go, especially when you're kind of butting heads, to step back and go, dang, that's a good question. You know what? I'm going to really think about it. Yeah, I think that's in there somewhere. Like, certainly I could argue that it's not, but I think you're probably right. Like, if I'll really examine myself, I think I am a little bit sick of looking in all these homes, and I just want to get this done. I want to get this off my list. I have other things to do. So, us kind of working through that, and then you being willing to, in a very pragmatic way, stand your ground. And I remember you saying, you're like, Greg, if you love it this much, and you really think it's the right thing, I'll do it. I'll go with you. We'll move in together. But I'm just being honest about, I just don't think it's the right house for us to, it just doesn't feel right. And, so I stepped back, and again, we decided not to do it. And kind of the happy ending of the story is, it's funny. I remember thinking, and I think I said it out loud, you know what? You go look for a house, and you go find it. And when you go through it and you walk through it and it meets all your boxes, come tell me and I'll walk through it then. But I got enough on my plate, dude. I'm tired of trying to find a house. You do some work here. And so I got this attitude, right? But then I was like, once I slept on it, I was like, bro, calm down. Like, stop being a baby, get back to work. And probably 2 weeks later, boom.
Yeah.
The right thing popped up. We walked in, and it's
all of us were like, this is home.
Everything came together for that. And so it really was, I remember really walking Ella through it. She would have been about 10 or 11 at the time, super bummed about that other house and kind of mad at you. And I was like, look, chill out. Let's be patient. Let's trust the right thing at the right time is going to happen, and blah, blah. And it did. And it was a learning experience. I know for me.
I was super stressed out because I'm like, what if I just talked us out of this house and that was the house? Like, I'm starting to like second guess myself. But I really did feel strongly. I think the best thing about that conversation was actually the years of our relationship that set it up to be a good conversation. What I mean by that is, I knew that if I came to you with a very honest question like that, and you could feel that I wasn't trying to like jab you with it. No. I was really
trying to bring truth to the surface. So you're not
trying
to win.
That you would be receptive to that, and that you would go there. The fact that I could trust you to do that made it a good conversation. The other piece of it on your end that made it a good conversation with me was that you knew I'm not contrarian. I'm not just trying to be a wet blanket on ideas all the time. I'm generally a go along and like, let's do this. Let's be a team kind of person. So if I actually voice something and go, I really don't feel good about this, I mean it. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't just come in and be like, well, it's my way or the highway. Like if I really feel something in my gut, that's the time I'm going to be like, I really, really mean,
Yeah.
So I think because we were able to have that history where we trust each other on those things, that you go, all right, if Shaylyn's saying she's got a gut check on something, I'm going to listen to it. 'Cause she doesn't say that very often. When she does, it's usually for a good reason.
Well, on a subject like that too, where you're looking at how are you quantifying the value of this purchase? So you can look at the market value, you can look at the real estate value, you can look at all those like metrics, but what is the value of an environment where you're like, gosh, this feels like home. This is a place I feel peace. And it can be things like positioning of windows in an environment, or the roof height, or what ceiling height, or whatever it is, like how the backyard's laid out, things like that, which again, you're going beyond how many acres does it have, like what is the value that this is bringing in terms of giving us a sense of peace and facilitating our family.
Yeah.
And so to go, hey, I know it checks the square feet boxes, but this isn't just a piece of real estate that we're buying and flipping. This is something that really, how it feels and how it feels to you, is important. And so again, to go, it doesn't matter how it should feel or how it could feel to someone else. The bottom line is it doesn't feel that way to you. So to go, when we're assessing value, making a good purchase, what is that worth in the, that particular decision?
Yeah.
So I think again, for like areas where we're disagreeing, what we were trying to do was figure out the value and what's a wise choice for us to do, and to kind of keep talking about it, to not allow the friction to create emotion, negative emotion, but to go, no, let's keep this as pragmatic as we can so that we can articulate ourselves well and think straight.
I think it was also one of those moments where it brought into crystal clarity what each of us brings to the table as a gift and actually appreciating it, instead of seeing what's different about the other person as something that is like, rubbing up against. Because, that could have been such a blow up, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it is such a big decision. But it ended up being such great teamwork. And that's like a moment I kind of look back at and I'm like, I'm really proud of how we handled that, because it was potentially such a something that would create resentment and bitterness, right, on either side. And it didn't, and we worked well. And it's like, I think the reality is you are such a visionary person, such a see 5-10 years ahead of everybody, like get out in front of the puck kind of guy, right? And that is your genius. You're so great at that. And I have enough of that I can go there with you, but it's not like my area of strength the same way it is with you. For me, I think one of my greatest areas of strength is discernment, and especially the more I've leaned into it and really allowed myself to be in tune with those things. Like if I throw up a roadblock, it's not because I'm not down with the program. It's because I'm like, I think there's a crash over there. I can see it coming. And it would be so easy for you to be really frustrated with me and just feel like, bro, you're always out here raining on my parade. There's nothing I want to do less than rain on your parade. And because you know that, if I do bring something up, I'm going to listen to it because there's probably something here. And for me, I have learned to trust your ability to see things way out far ahead and get on board and be excited about it. And so I think things that we could see as deeply irritating about each other, instead we're able to go, this is your area of really strong gifting and I appreciate it. And that's what makes us a great team. And we can play off of those things to really get moving forward, cruising and avoiding pitfalls as a team.
Yeah. It's people know that tension is important in good decision-making. That's kind of a common knowledge.
Sure.
It's gonna, tension is good in that sense because we have to be able to think about this from all different angles. And And yet it's hard in the moment when you're feeling it to value it. A lot of times it feels like it's a problem.
Counterproductive.
Yeah, it feels counterproductive. It feels like it's something we have to solve here versus going, no, this really is good.
Yeah.
Like this is how you make better decisions. So even to have the presence of mind and the language to kind of say that and to acknowledge that, like, hey, this, by the way, feels like an argument.
Yeah.
Feels like we're not on the same team, but no, this is how better decisions are made.
Yeah.
So let's communicate well. Let's pick our words well.
This is how a good team tackles a problem.
And let's keep our emotions in check.
Yeah.
And you know, for you, it's not about raining on my parade. It's going, let's embrace this tension right now so that we don't end up with much worse tension down the road. If I just try to avoid this because I don't have the pain tolerance for it right now, or I don't want to be perceived as a wet blanket, well, how am I going to feel 2 years from now when it's worse? And I look back and I go, you know what? I should have had the courage, to step up and do it.
And
but
that's
it really
been a
does.
lesson for me to learn.
In a marriage, it takes two people to do that. Both of you have to see it that way. If you don't, then you're just going to think you're fighting.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think what you brought up there is actually a really good point. I don't know that everybody does know that about tension being a good thing. I think a lot of people, I guess it's hard for me to quantify, but I think there are definitely people who feel like
I agree with
it's
that.
best to, that like people think, oh, well, it's so good for us to all be on the same side.
The artificial harmony thing.
Yeah,
they go,
I don't know that that's
if
great.
we have a healthy relationship, it should always be harmonious, right? That's what they think.
Yeah, and it's like, no, that's actually not true. Like, I'm trying to remember who said this. I'm sure you could tell me, but like the idea of something being a tension to be managed versus a problem to be solved. And it's like the tension, the key there is it should be managed. It shouldn't go away. You should have some tension there. And I don't mean constant conflict. I'm not saying that. I hope people understand what we're saying. But valuing that you will each see some things differently and that person giving you this other perspective of this idea and helping you tilt the prism and see it differently is such a gift because they might see things you don't see.
I used this in a sermon years ago, but was talking about the difference between wrestling and fighting, right? So when you're wrestling, right, you're like, if you think about like an interpersonal, we're talking about this issue, we're wrestling with it, and in a sense, like nobody's getting injured, like we're not striking a blow, right?
I'm not trying to knock you out.
We're getting stronger here. We're working through this, like we're grappling with it.
We're seeing where there's a weakness on something and where there's a strength and what's the right thing to do.
And you know, I've seen it before where people were sort of like playfully wrestling with rules. All of a sudden, somebody's feelings get hurt, somebody gets provoked, and it's like fists are flying, right? And so you go, let's have our issues that we're working through. Something needs to change. We have to come to a decision. Let's have it be more of a wrestling match. There's rules here. We're not trying to hurt each other. We're trying to figure out what's the right thing to do, and it's going to take some grappling versus having that sucker turn into, a fight. Now we're striking a blow. Now it's getting personal. Now it's, you know what I mean? Somebody's trying to win. It's kind of a different way of approaching it. That's all I have to say about that. You have more?
No, I agree. I mean, take heart if that's something you're still working through. We don't get it right every time. We still throw a jab every once in a while and have to come back and apologize. Nobody's perfect. But you will keep getting better and better at that the more that you approach it with that mindset.
You value it.
That's right.
All right. How much time? Hold on. Let's guess.
You got to guess. Go ahead. What do you think?
I'm going to say 21 minutes.
I'm going to say 18.
Right in the middle.
Oh.
Just over 19 and a half.
If that isn't the most perfect
19 and a half?
example.
You said 18?
It just hit 20.
And I said 21? It was literally right in the middle. Wow.
It was like 1945.
Wow. Okay,
I got to follow up for that question, actually. That might be the second question. Greg, and correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but Greg, part of what I was hearing you saying was I think that when you were looking for those houses, you were operating out of an area that maybe might not have been your gifting, or it just was really like it was draining your energy a lot. And part of what you were looking for in that conversation was maybe even recognition that you were doing that. Is there any truth to that?
So I don't know that I was looking for recognition. It was probably, so I have one of the tortured things about being me is I have strong opinions about how I want things done, but I don't always want to do them, right? So this would have fallen into that category of like, I know, I'm not the guy who's like you is just gonna go, yeah, move into any house, whatever. Like I had specific things I wanted. Like I want to love the house. I want to feel a certain way about it. So it's not, it really, I couldn't just say, hey, Shaylyn, get whatever you want and I'll just move in there. That would drive me nuts. But the work to find it wasn't, I was spinning my wheels a little bit. Like I was putting out lots of energy.
But also it would have been hard for you to not be the one looking because you would be thinking there's a house somewhere and they missed it.
Exactly.
And so I have to go find it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it technically could have worked if it was like you were super passionate about it, you were finding houses, and then I'm the one going in like, no, not really. And I would have felt bad about that. Like, man, she's out here putting in all this work, and I just keep walking and saying no.
I know. It sucks
So
either
I
way.
felt like it was my responsibility. I felt, and I knew that I was going to be highly opinionated about it. But the fact that it was taking a lot of time and a lot of work and a lot of no's to get to the yes.
Yeah.
In terms of the recognition, no, it wasn't like that wasn't a big deal as much as it was just maybe feeling like
just tired of it.
Tired of being the driving,
and,
the driver. And even it's sometimes I'll feel frustrated, not even with other people, because it's like, I know I can't just delegate this thing. I have a specific way I want it done. I don't feel that way about everything. Lots of things I'm like, dude, do it your way, man. No problem. But some things,
have a strong
my house, okay, that like I want that specific. So my frustration is I have a strong opinion about it and I can't really delegate it.
So I have to see
So
this
I have
thing
to
through
do
no
it.
matter how much I don't love it.
So I'm not mad at people because I didn't ask them
Just
to
mad at
take
the
it from me.
process. Yeah.
But I'm mad at my reality. So it's just frustrated at life.
Because I was curious if, obviously, in a perfect world, can't go back in time, but if that conversation would have started with Shaylyn saying, hey, before we even talk, I've recognized all this hard work that you're doing, and I know the process has been rocky, and I just wanted to say thank you. And because it almost, like what I was hearing almost is that there was frustration because it felt like you were doing all the work and Shaylyn wasn't able to really give a lot of good brain power to it.
No, I don't think so. I mean, and we were both looking, obviously
You probably did say that, actually. You probably did say that.
I know I said something along those lines in the conversation at some point. I couldn't tell you when, but because I definitely felt that, where I was like, gosh, I know, like, you've been the one looking, and I know that's exhausting, and I'm sorry. Like, it makes me feel even worse about saying that I don't like this.
So you were more frustrated with the problem and the process, not necessarily the person?
Right.
Yeah, you don't just push a magic button and the problem's fixed, right? So you got to keep hacking away at it. But no, she probably did say, and that probably helped my dukes come down a little bit in terms of, but I wouldn't say that was like the core issue. The core issue was we're trying to get our family to the right house.
And to feel like you finally found one, and then it's like, no.
Yeah.
Because my thought or question was revolved around trying to seeing something in your spouse, maybe that they're not even able to articulate or that they don't even know that is seen. Like I've learned over the past year or so that it feels like recognition is high for me. So for Bailey to notice something and recognize something that I didn't have to bring to her is so much more meaningful than me having to come to her and say, I'm doing all this work. And she's like, oh yeah, thank you for doing that. Like if she takes the time to notice it, but maybe everyone's not wired that way.
I mean, that's going to be higher for some people than it is for others, for sure. But I think everybody feels that to some degree. Like, of course it feels good to feel like the work that you do is appreciated. Everybody values that. And I do think sometimes that's the heart of an argument, right? Where sometimes you feel like, man, I've got this mental load, right? And I'm carrying all these things that like you don't even seem to see. That's definitely a valid frustration that I think is the root of a lot of arguments. I don't think it was the root of this particular one, but for sure we've both been there where it felt like, man, I'm holding down X, Y, and Z, and like it feels like you don't value that. That's always hard. So I agree. I think for some people it matters more than others, but but it's good to recognize because I think it matters to everybody to some degree. We all get tired sometimes when we feel like we're holding down a whole area by ourselves and like the person closest to you doesn't value that. That sucks, you know?
Is that something that maybe that you guys ran into more earlier on? Like when your kids were younger, then now you guys have been married long enough that you're kind of more aware of stuff?
As you guys were talking, I was thinking like about that. Like I think probably for me, the areas that where someone expressing or acknowledging your work and expressing appreciation probably means more in just work that I'm doing that is benefiting others and is not intrinsically rewarding. So if it's intrinsically rewarding, for whatever reason, I probably don't look for people to express gratitude as much.
Well, sure, because that already was the
Yeah,
reward.
it's like I've already been rewarded for this. So,
Yeah.
But when it's the work doesn't feel rewarding, and then I'm doing it, and then you're questioning, you know, my reward would be that you appreciate it. My reward would be that, you know, that I'm helping you in life and that I'm making life either easier or better or something for you. So if it's not, then I'm doing all this work and I'm getting no reward for it. So just that, them expressing that feels like in some way, you know, it hits that reward center in your brain or whatever.
What's an example of that type of work for you?
Of things that I do that aren't rewarding?
Yeah, that getting recognition is helpful from Shaylyn.
Well, right now, I would say, you know, some of the work we're doing with in terms of with the church, like on the physical building, you know, so we have these building projects and it's a lot of architects and civil engineers and
Dry
navigating
conversations that just
navigating
suck the
through
life
the
out of you.
city. And it's a lot of stuff that I doesn't excite me or get me up in the morning, but I know it's what our church needs for me to serve the people of our church, you know? So I'm doing that work. It's not personally rewarding. It's not intrinsically rewarding. It feels like I put out twice the effort and get half the result, but I'm doing it to serve others, to serve God. And so, you know, she's had a front row seat. Shaylyn's in a lot of those meetings. So her acknowledging that. If it's something like, I mean, like I'm not, in terms of housework or fixing things or, you know, those types of things aren't my favorite thing to do. So if I'm, you know, if she's gone for a while, comes home, house is, you know, I'll rally the troops, man. We're going to clean this thing up. We're going to, you know, when mom gets home, you know, it's going to be, house is going to be perfect.
So she didn't even notice that?
It would bum me out.
Yeah.
I'd be like, man, I pulled the squad together, you know, and we deep cleaned and I, you know,
But knowing you, she's probably barely getting in the door and you're like, oh, like careful. I know the floor is squeaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put up like a wet floor sign, right? Please watch.
You two are so similar.
A big yellow sign in the house. Watch your step. This has recently been mopped.
Hey, yeah. Can you please take your shoes off before you walk in? The floor is clean.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I feel like that is something that thankfully we've both been generally pretty good at from the beginning and have gotten better at over time of making sure that like if the other person is either in a season of doing things we know are just like wearing them out and not, even if it's not directly related to us, right? But like it's just like, man, you're in the middle of some stuff that's like exhausting.
Yeah.
Then we're pretty good about being in each other's corner and just being like, hey, I know this is like a lot. You're doing a great job, you know?
Yeah.
And nobody's perfect. I'm sure that I've missed things plenty of times that you were like, would have been nice for you to notice that. But I think that
both of us.
I think, yeah, but I feel like in general, we do a pretty good job of just, even if it's a hug, walking past the other person and going, man, looks like today's a heck of a day. Like, you're doing a great job. Love you.
I mean, I think when you have a lot of divide and conquer that you have to do, a lot of times, especially when you feel like you sort of have your fill, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I feel like I'm adequately challenged. I got my hands full. So a lot of times when you're really focused on all that you have in your hands, you don't necessarily have maybe the time or energy to go and to really consider, to even notice it or to really consider like, gosh, that's a lot, you know, that they're doing. And what all does it take to, you know, I know sometimes like I'd come home and you'd be like, hey, you know, I was on the phone with the insurance company today and it was a 3-hour call and blah, blah, blah. And there's a part of me that wants to go almost, you know, it's almost like I have so much I'm thinking about. Like, I don't want to think about the thing I didn't have to do. But it's important to embrace that, to take just a couple minutes here, engage your emotion, engage your mind to go, gosh, you know, a 3-hour, you know, you were on hold for, they had you on hold for 45 minutes. They sent you over, the thing got disconnected.
Right.
Then you had to call them back and blah, blah, blah. Like, dang, that is frustrating. I've done that before, and that takes it out of you, you know, and to go, you're fighting those battles. You know, you did that and 4 other things. And so instead of, again, when you're dividing and conquering a lot, it can be almost like I don't even want to think about that because I have my own things to think about. But when you're in a marriage,
don't have the capacity to think about it because your brain was so full with your own things.
yeah, and in the context of marriage, especially, but I think any environment, work, it's good to think about what your coworkers are doing so you can appreciate them. But I think, like, particularly in a marriage, like to take the space, you know, the time and the space to do that, you know, it does, I think, bring you together more. And it's important to do so that you're not just taking that other person for granted.
Yeah. You know what else I think is really valuable in that is taking into account how each of you are wired and how something that might not take as much out of you takes more out of them, or vice versa. So it's like sometimes even when, if you wrote it all down on paper, the one person's workload might look like more than another's or harder or whatever. Depending on how that other person is wired, what they're doing is so out of their wheelhouse that it is sucking the life out of them right now. And so to appreciate, like, yeah, that what you're doing is like taking you to your max capacity. Thank you for doing this thing that is just like so much for you.
This conversation is like super relevant to my life in this season just because it's so busy. I've been obsessing about for like the past 9 months this personality thing called the working genius, and what you're talking about
Just
is
finished my my report on that this morning for you.
Well, you have to be a discerner, right? Yeah. So in my home, there's no tenacity. Like I'm a W. Well, I won't get into it, but we're all at like the top end of the spectrum. So anything that it takes to like push stuff across the finish line is like super, super draining for Bailey and me. So when it comes to insurance stuff or paying medical bills or just any kind of that like document
just getting stuff done,
it's so draining. And Bailey is with our 2-year-old twins, and so I end up getting a lot of that stuff. And that's probably the main area where it's like I'm on hold with insurance for an hour, and I come home, and she's been wrestling the boys, and she wants the recognition of like, hey, thank you for
managing them all day.
Yeah, and I want the recognition of like, thank you for doing that. But it's like neither of us feel like that we have the energy to really recognize the other person. And so it's just like communicating. Even like Shaylyn, you just said like giving a hug and saying like, hey, I see what you're doing. Like, thank you. But it's like this challenge that we consistently run into, which is like, how do you serve the other person and help meet their needs when you feel like that your needs aren't being met?
I'd throw a little thought to you. So I think one of the areas I misread the signal a little bit. So Shaylyn might tell me about the hardships of her day, and the misreading of the signal might be that she is implying that her day was harder than mine. Right? So wrestling the twins, hey, you know, these guys were a handful today, man. They were in rare form. It was awful. Okay. And then, you know, you had to go kick tail at work. You had a conflict over here. You were working with both hands, and you had the insurance company on the, and so in a sense, you don't want to turn it into a contest as to who had the harder day.
Right.
Because you'll never know, right? Who knows? It's not even just how much work did you do and how many minutes did you work and how hard was that work.
It's what it took out of you.
It's what it took out of you. So the bottom line is both of you had a lot taken out of you today. And so you go, like, but there were times early on where she would do that, and I would almost want to go and defend myself and go, you think you had a hard day? Here's what I had to go through, and here's what I did.
And I was like, I wasn't trying to imply that my day
and
was
so you have
harder.
to kind of see, like, that's not what we're doing here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying my day was harder than yours. I'm not saying my life is worse than yours. What I'm saying is I'm tired.
Yeah.
I would say to your question about like how do you meet each other's needs, I think there will be seasons, and you guys are kind of in one of these kind of seasons right now. I remember those where it's like everything is happening at the same time. Kids are little, there's so much going on. You really don't have much left to give. So I think coming to the place where you go, I don't really have anything to give tonight. You don't really have anything to give tonight. So like we're not going to ask things of each other, but we're just going to shake hands and tell each other, good job. We went out and divide and conquer and killed this day. Like, go team. Let's just go lay in bed and watch a show. Like, we have nothing else. Because I think sometimes that is the hard thing where, like, you know, people are hoping that somebody is going to come alongside and pick up some lift. And maybe there are seasons where neither one of you can really pick up much for each other. Full. Your hands are truly full. But just the act of communicating to each other in even a single sentence and a hug and a high five, whatever, of just going, like, our team killed it today. Thank you for your contribution. Yeah. And the other person goes, yeah, thank you for yours. Like, we did our darndest today. And I'm really thankful I've got a teammate that's doing that.
It's probably, so we talk about like frustration being where expectation is here and performance is here, right?
Yes.
So if expectation is at a 10, performance is at a 6, everything between 6 and 10 is frustration.
Yes.
So we can either lower the expectation to an 8 and raise performance to an 8, problem solved. So in a sense, what you guys seem to be experiencing is you get home and you've put out a lot of energy and she's put out a lot of energy, and what you both want is the other person to marvel over what you did that day. Like, wow, right. Like, can't believe, thank you. Like,
but also like just like grab the bull by the horns and get the boys to bed and like basically be the driver.
Yeah.
But both of us, so it's like we both have high expectations for the other person, and maybe not even expectations as much as like, I feel like I need you to jump in here. And then she's looking at me like, I feel like I need you to jump in here. I'm like, okay, let's rally together.
I've been jumping into other stuff all day.
Yeah.
So in a sense, like, lowering the expectation a little bit of, that I'd like to be recognized for what I do, that's part of raising performance, that you both kind of go, I'm going to really think about all you're doing and put it in my own words of how appreciative I am. So some of that, and some of it probably lowering expectation on like, hey, we're both putting out a lot there. She's probably not going to sit there just with her mouth open, going, how in the world do you do what you do every day, Brandon? You're a superhero. Yeah. In a sense, you got to lower that expectation, raise performance, both of you. And then, like you said, I mean, it's one of those things with season, you guys are in, twins, young, all of a sudden you look up and it won't be long, they'll be putting themselves to bed. It won't be long, they'll be getting themselves ready. And so it's, but I think it's kind of lowering expectations at times, raising performance, and trying to compromise.
Yeah. Well, that's the conversation I try to bring up is like, we were driving home the other night and Bailey was reading through notes in my phone, and one of them was something I wrote on Thanksgiving, and it was about how the prior Thanksgiving there was a ton of health scares with our boys, and then the following Thanksgiving our boys were running around and we were exhausted, and I was like, God, I don't want to ever forget that a year ago on Thanksgiving we didn't even know if they would be here today.
Yeah.
And so you're it's like kind of like Greg, you were saying with the building projects too, where you're putting the vision in front of you of like, why is this work important? And for us, it's like this reminder of like, man, we prayed for this moment. Like there's some days where like I come home and I was like, and it's hard to admit this, but I'm like, man, I kind of wish we didn't have kids. Like I want to go see this movie, and it would be just so fun and we're so blessed with family that helps out a ton. But and then I just remind myself like, man, if we didn't have kids, we would be sitting here saying, man, I wish we had kids. Like so it's like you're in the middle of it, but you have to remind yourself like, no, I prayed for this, and this is the blessing that I asked for.
That's what we talked about, I think, in one of the last episodes around holding simultaneous feelings that are conflicting.
Right. Yep.
So you're going, I am grateful for these boys. Mm-hmm. And I'm tired of, I'm tired
I
of
can also
boys,
admit
right?
they're
You know what I'm saying? Like that it's okay.
Yeah.
And you just kind of, again, keep leaning into each other, and it goes fast.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for letting me derail the conversation.
No, I think that was great, and I think that's probably valuable for a lot of people. You go through seasons where, like, I'll be darned, we're all doing our best to keep our head above water, but like it feels like every time you reach out, and I'm hoping you're pulling me up, you're hoping I'm pulling you up and we're both going under.
Dude,
you know?
so here's what you do, man. You guys are tired. Neither of you want to punch this thing in the end zone, get these boys to bed. What you do is you order Wingstop.
Okay.
You order Wingstop on Uber Eats. And they're like, it'll be here in 40 minutes. So you have something to look forward to. Hey, let's bite down. Let's go shoulder to shoulder. Let's get these guys bathed, jammies, bedtime story, whatever you got to do. But we know in 40 minutes, dude, this doorbell's going to ring, and it's going to be garlic parmesan.
And it's going to be you and
Wingstop.
I cuddled up, eating some Wingstop in peace.
Create a pot of gold at the end of that rainbow, dog.
And if that doorbell wakes up the boys, I'm going to crash out. I'm going to lose my mind.
That's the other thing. You can say, I'll go wait on the porch. Well,
Yeah, I don't think. Nope.
Yeah, you get the boys in bed.
It's all about the boys. I don't want them to wake up, so I'll sit on the porch for 40 minutes and I'll wait for the Wingstop.
That doesn't fix anything.
I think it's a good place to end.
Yep, that's definitely a good place to end. I'm actually hungry now.